Welcome to Table Talk with Brenda Perryman right here on TV 33, WHPR, Comcast 20 in Detroit, and Comcast 90. But this show is going to be rebroadcast next week because we're in the midst of a digital upgrade, which is a very, very good thing. But you could catch us on www.tv33WHPR.com. And now I'd like to introduce my co-host for this morning because we have a lot of great conversation for you.
Good morning. My name is Robert Thomas. I'm the Vice Chairman of the City of Detroit Board of Zoning Appeals.
Chris Sumrall, serving for the citizens of the City of Detroit.
I'm Darren Calhoun, Supervisor and Investigator with the EEOC, where we'll be celebrating our 50th anniversary for the law on Wednesday, July 2nd.
This is also Freedom Summer.
That's right.
Wow.
Oh,
Summer.
that's when that started?
That's when the Civil Rights Act was signed, July 2nd, 1964,
Right.
in the midst of Freedom Summer.
Wow.
And our agency turns 50 on July 2nd, 1965.
God, I feel so old because I was down south during Freedom Summer. I was fighting for the right. Well, I was a kid, but I was still fighting. As per is what we do every week on this day in African American life in Detroit, written by Mr. Ken Coleman. In 1950, June 28th, Charles Wesley Jones becomes the first African American in Michigan history to serve as a judge. Jones, a member of the firm Loomis, Jones, Piper, and Carden, is appointed to Recorder's Court by Governor G. Menon Williams, a Democrat. The vacancy occurs after the death of Judge Christopher E. Stein. Jones previously served as an assistant prosecutor from 1935 to 1944. The 51-year-old is required to run for office in a special primary as ordered by the Common Council scheduled for September 12th. He will score an overwhelming victory in the election. Jones will come up short in November, however, and lose the seat on the 29-person court. Isn't that just the way? I mean, there's so much, and it seems like we're moving backwards, though. I'm telling you, a lot of things are happening. And the first thing I want to talk about and get your views on is Boehner and the Republicans talking about suing President Obama.
Yeah, he's putting up a lawsuit. I don't believe he has any serious ground to sue the president. I say it like this. President Obama, out of all the presidents, he's probably in the middle somewhere with ordering executive orders.
Right.
You have George H.W. Bush, probably pushed 100 and something more than President Obama. But now we have a lawsuit against the president based on the fact that he's issuing out executive orders.
Well, it's election year, and he's got to play to the base. Nothing's going on for the Republican Party right for the last 2 years, but they have to get reelected. Now, we just saw in the speaker, the leader of either the Senate, I think it was the Senate, who lost his race to a Tea Party challenger.
Majority Whip.
Majority Whip. Lost his race to
Eric Cantor.
Eric Cantor, that's his name. Lost his race because he wasn't doing anything. So all these radical Tea Partier, and we know them, a lot of them to be bigoted, they have to say something. So this is Boehner's way of getting some Republicans elected. I mean, he probably doesn't have standing, he probably doesn't have a good basis to stand on, but they got to get reelected.
And you know what? It's strategy. I remember having a job when I was a kid, and sometimes there were down times, but the supervisor would come in every now and then, and so we would hear him. And so we would just do something called just look busy, right? And so what he may be doing right now is just trying to look busy. And you know, to go along with both of you guys' comments, you know, it is an election year, and you know, he may be just trying to position himself in the front of maybe an auxiliary or a secondary conversation that will eventually come up. Something's going to happen. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't, you know, it's not going to be quiet for long. There's going to be some issue. And so, but he's just maybe trying to look busy right now. And his strategy is to be expected, honestly. And I don't really think it's too surprising.
Yeah, but it's taxpayer money that they're going to use. I had Lon Johnson on my first show. He is the chair of the Michigan Democratic Party, and he was talking about all the ways the Republicans are going to try to do things to make sure that the voters come up short, Democratic voters come up short. And it seems like the Republicans, they get a plan and they stick to it. I heard Ed Gillespie, who's running for Senate or something in, not Pennsylvania, Virginia this morning. And he talked about the guy who's the incumbent. And he says that the incumbent, all he does is vote with President Obama. What's wrong with that? I mean, that's their, but that is the way, one of the things they always say. This person always goes with President Obama like it's so bad. It's like a mantra. It's like a mantra. And now they haven't, I think Boehner was asked a question. He was asked, well, what has he done and everything, and Boehner could not answer.
Well, the practices that are in Washington, they're not created by these individuals. They're taught, and so these same practices have been practices that have existed for years. And when they came to Washington, they were sat down and said, "This is what you're supposed to do." Exactly. And they've got that manual. And anytime there's some confusion, they refer back to that manual. Whether it's the way they vote, whether it's when they choose to pick a fight, it's not. It's a manual. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people who believe or who would hope that it would be something different, something a little bit more sincere, something a little bit more genuine. But the fact of the matter is, it's politics.
And I agree. And I believe the Republican Party right now, at least the base, they're running scared right now. They are, in fact, scared of these Tea Partiers.
Mm-hmm.
You had just, 2 days ago, 3 days ago, Thad Cochran, senator in Mississippi,
Against
almost
McDaniel.
Pushed to the
almost
limit.
overran
Runoff,
by
runoff election.
the new guy, the younger guy that's a Tea Party Republican. And John Boehner is definitely pandering all the way to the right of his
Yes.
base. The deep right, matter of fact,
Yep.
you're dealing with the Tea Partiers. So
Yeah.
this is just political
Yeah.
pandering.
And
Well,
it was
he's
fun.
also boosted yesterday, though, from the Supreme Court that said
Oh,
that said
gosh.
that President Obama couldn't make these
Appointments.
when they're not out of session. They weren't in town. They weren't in town for more
Not
out
in
of town more
session.
than in session for more than 10 days, so he couldn't make it. So now they're boosted by that, and so that's what I'm sure they're going to take that, try to run, all the way from
And that is not Obama's Supreme Court, because it is
Absolutely.
5-4 in favor of Republicans.
Republican nominations.
Right. I don't know. It just seems like these people are so calloused, and they have to have consciences, but they just send their consciences out the door. They don't
Well-
care if people are hungry.
You know what? I heard about a person's conscience one time. I heard it's like any other person. It'll talk to you for a while, but if you don't listen to it, eventually it'll stop talking to you.
Well,
So that's what we may have in D.C., that they've ignored their conscience so long that it's just not talking to them.
Well, on Amos and Andy, there was this show where Amos wouldn't get up in time for his job. And Sapphire came in the room and said, "Kingfish, doesn't your conscience bother you?" And he says, "I'll tell you about my conscience. I don't bother it, and it don't bother me."
Wow.
So that's what I think is going on too. That's what I really think is going on. Now let's get to these water shutoffs. This is crazy. Now they're talking about they have plans and stuff. Can anyone kind of talk about this a little?
You know something? I believe it's one of those political maneuverings too. Okay, so you have creditors out there that want Detroit money. They want their money back from the city of Detroit. I think Kevin Orr strategically said, "Hey, was it Detroit Water and Sewage? You have to move on these collections so we can get some money. You said we're broke. We have to start collecting this money now."
Right.
So they're forced to go out there and now collect this money. What's funny to me is the fact that Detroit's been bailed out in a way. Why don't we have some type of amnesty program for senior citizens and people who owe money. You have an
Detroit
article.
pensioners.
Yeah, we have an article in here with a retired sergeant.
Right.
She says she don't owe this much money, and I'm not sure how you accumulate over $1,000 worth of bills.
Oh, it can happen.
Say
Water.
$65 a month.
Yeah, but she said it. She's contesting this water bill, in which I could see it because I'm on the corner. You have people working in construction. They will open the water valves just to fill a big water tank for construction. Now they're not paying for this. The citizens in that area is going to pay for that.
Right.
So we're how are they
I would
putting these accounts out there?
I would imagine just being around the city that I've seen more water running down the side of the street than what these folks owe.
Yep.
And so what I see is an aggressive, I would even say, agenda against residents of the city of Detroit, not just from the perspective of the water department, but if you look at the rate hikes as far as parking tickets, now they're $45 for a parking ticket. Across the board, you've seen, recently I was ticketed. I was given a ticket for
what?
Parking in the Miami Heat zone.
No, I was. They made it something
Miami
impeding traffic.
Miami Heat.
Impeding traffic.
You were impeding traffic?
Yeah. So, but
How
what
were
it was,
you impeding traffic?
you know what? It would take a half a show to talk about it. So, but it was another $125. And so what I see is an aggressive campaign to dig into the pockets of those individuals who are inside the city of Detroit, one way or the other. It's a net, and we're going to catch you one way or the other. Everybody's going to have water, and if you come downtown and park, which it's kind of confusing to me that other municipalities surrounding the city, they give certain consideration for individuals with handicap designation. You go down to Royal Oak or Birmingham, they park for free.
Right. Right.
And in the city of Detroit, it seems like there's an aggressive attack against seniors. This lady right here, she's a retiree, and
Right.
she's not only a retiree, she's a retiree that her pension is under attack.
And she's
Right.
from the
Well, that's what I
police
said,
department, I
let's-
think.
Let's look at it from the other side, though. What's your alternative? What's the alternative to the? And I'm not certainly not for them, but let's just to move the conversation. What's the alternative for the water department? How are they going to because those are pensioners as well.
Absolutely.
Those are Detroit water and sewage workers. How are they going to get if you're not paying these bills? And I'm certainly one that don't pay my bills all the time on time. Mm-hmm. But if we're not paying for the water, then what happens?
Well, in business, there are two different ways to increase revenue. There's one, you can actually try to get more money in from your clients or customers, which they're trying to do, or you can become more efficient. We talked about all those millions and millions of dollars. Water is more expensive than oil.
And I asked somebody, I was telling someone about this problem, and they said, well, why aren't they paying their bills? Everybody can't pay the bills.
Everybody ain't able.
Right. Well,
But
Natural
use the
water
service,
is,
though.
but that's like almost a
But-
basic human right. You should have water. You cannot live without it. You can live without electricity, not without water.
There has to be
You
a
can-
fine line somewhere.
well, they have an assistance program they're going to bring back about.
That's the important thing. That's what I was.
And people were able to make arrangements. Arrangements do help somewhat, a little bit.
I think that this assistance program, I'm going to hold off because I don't know I don't know how it's going to be implemented and how it's going to be structured. I know that they're saying that we're going to do this, but that could be, something political as well, just to say, oh, we've got something for people just in case. But I haven't seen, the fruits of that yet. So I kind of got a reserved judgment on that. I'm wondering why it kind of faded away in the first place. It's not like
I don't know either, but they said they have collected a lot of money.
Right.
Of
And
course,
so,
you put a gun to somebody's head, they're going to give you what's in their pocket.
or what they have to borrow.
Yeah.
Well, but if you don't, then you're not going to get anything.
Well, and again, I think it's about. I'm not saying that you don't get more aggressive about, getting those bills recovered. What I'm saying is have a little. It seems like there wasn't as much thought it seems as if this provision or this partnering with Thaw, this came as a result of an outcry, possibly
Right.
to the United Nations. Oh no,
they
we're putting
did,
something
yeah,
together.
contact
you
the
know.
United Nations.
So,
Oh, gosh.
what I would like to see, more efficiency, more thoughts. I understand you got to get that money in, but you also have to be mindful that this isn't Lear Corporation. You're
Right.
talking about grandma, great grandma.
But that's what they're saying here. They're saying we just want you to come in and talk to us.
That's
Let
not
us-
what they're
No,
saying. They're
no,
saying they
no.
want their money.
No, yeah.
According to
Because
the
there's a
articles,
gentleman-
they're saying, come on in,
there's
talk
a
to us.
gentleman in the-
Let's figure this thing out.
There's a gentleman-
But to just sit back and just not allow it.
I wouldn't enforce it on the companies that owe them money, the people in business that owe them money first, before I would enforce it on a senior citizen with congestive heart failure, and trying to force that.
How do they know that she has congestive heart failure?
Well, what?
Explain that to them.
So how do you do that?
But
You
even
talk to them.
then, after she explained that to them,
Then
they
you
still
force
said, no, you
Right.
still owe us this money.
Right. Now that's where I jump off. I mean that's where
And
the
you need to
problem
be
is.
jumping off right now.
Yeah.
I'm off.
They're
I'm
still,
off.
they
You're
want
right.
that
I'm
G.
off. They
I
want
could-
the 1,000. You're right. They want that money,
They're
but
not
they
backing off
they
that.
need to be humans in this. That's where I guess where I'm trying to get to.
Eh,
Because if you don't, if they don't go after it, will you ever pay? If they didn't come after you for that ticket, would you ever pay?
you know what? For
And
those
a ticket and a water bill are two separate
But
things.
but if they don't come after you for if you owe someone money, if they don't come after you, are you ever going to pay?
the water department is acting thirsty right now. if they're acting very thirsty, right? You know, so
Well, I want to say this. I remember a time where I get these water bills and I couldn't pay it all at the same time. So I went up. I hated the water company because they're the cold-hearted. I think they took a class on being cold-hearted. And I go up and I make you make a plan, but the plan is so tight. They only give you like, okay, you got to pay this, which is another big amount on this time. It's not a very flexible plan. I guess that's,
Think
but
of it like Belle though. If the water board doesn't do this now, the counties and everyone around are trying to get their hands on Detroit water.
yeah.
they've got it already, essentially. So,
Yeah, I think
got
that's a done deal. The reason
Yeah,
why
they
it's
got
water.
it.
So it wouldn't matter.
And it's funny. This is the Great Lakes state. All this water, and we're paying so much for water. But
and I think that behind this issue is an even larger issue, which is the poverty in the city of Detroit. And because what you're seeing is you're not seeing. I mean, when you think about a $65 a month water bill, most of us are blessed enough to say that that's really not
Right.
too much for us.
Right.
But what you're talking about a large demographic of individuals where that is a lot. And so the
when you have kids at home, I'm telling you, I was going through this when my kids lived at home. Everybody's taking showers in the morning.
When I was a kid, me and my brothers, we took a bath at the same time. I think that was maybe part of the strategy. My mom threw a couple G.I. Joes in the tub, and a couple, yeah, we like y'all get in there, and then afterward, y'all sisters get in. So whoever in there first, girls or boys. So we used to run to get in there.
I think the point is
A
A little bit of joy, dish detergent.
Like I say, when you look at the article,
Yeah.
the senior citizen, she's 60-something years old,
Right.
congestive heart failure. She lives alone. Anytime your water bill jumps for for a person living alone, about $60 to
Man,
$380,
400 or 500%.
Something's wrong
Something
there.
wrong. There's
Something's
a
wrong
leak
there,
in
and
the
they
house
should
or
know
something.
that. They should see that and was able to adjust it. But they didn't do it. They say you owe us this $1,000. We want it now, and that's.
And I
that's
want to tell
reprehensible.
people another thing to do is have the water company come out and
Get
check
an
for
actual
leaks.
reading.
Check for
Oh.
leaks.
Check for leaks because that's what happened to me. I had a leak. At one time, a leak that wasn't leaking on the faucet there, it was somewhere else in the pipes. They can check that out. There are things you could do, but it's unfortunate. And see, here they're cutting pensioners' pensions and everything, and then they're they're bombarding
It's an
people
attack
with
on
a
the
lot
middle class.
Yes,
It's an
middle
attack
class
on
and
the
lower
middle
middle
class.
class.
Yeah, middle class and down.
That's especially
Middle class and down.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I heard rich people get their water for free.
I heard they own the water. But anyway, yeah, that young man was found, Charlie Bothell, was found 2 days ago in his basement. What Have you all been following the coverage on this?
I don't know. I saw the coverage, and I don't know. It seems a little bit unbelievable that the police department and FBI went around the house, searched the house
With
every
dogs.
last crevice with cadaver dogs, and still wasn't able to find the kid. But on the fifth round, they found him hiding
In the barricade.
down a tunnel
Now,
in a barricade.
there's a video going viral right now where the dad was on a talk show.
He was on
And
Nancy Grace.
I didn't want to mention her name. She's not as good as you.
I know.
Yeah.
She was, but he was on there, and she was telling him. She said, "I'm getting reports that they found your son." What? Oh, what?
You forgot this part.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
If my son doesn't come home from school at 3:30, and he gets here at about 4 or 5:30, I'm going bananas. And he's 17 years old.
Yeah.
This kid's 11. He's been gone for 2 weeks.
He's
He's 12 years old, and
12.
you're
He's
sitting- you're
homeschooled.
and you're sitting there like, okay, hey, we looked there. Something else is going on. So his reactions, and this is occupational hazard, but his reactions to what was going on was not.
It didn't match.
It didn't match what should have happened. And I think, and now that the wife has been arrested, I think, or the stepmother's been arrested, I think that there's a lot more to the story that's going to come out.
It has to be a lot.
Yeah, I
to
think
it.
so. You know, the silver lining is this: is that the National Hide and Go Seek Society has they've reached out to the young man and have offered him a full ride to their academy. So we'll see. We'll see. You know,
Oh man.
it's all,
No,
you always
you
got to
did-
look for the
you
silver
did-
lining.
You didn't have to go there. Okay, that's 4, Chris. You got 4 jokes. 4 jokes. I'm waiting for that 5 minutes. But seriously, and then you saw him outside of his apartment day before yesterday,
Yeah.
and he hugged Guy Gordon, and he was crying on Guy Gordon's shoulder. He was crying hard. And then he gets up and he just had a little bit of tear.
You know, there's
I'm not saying that he knew
Yeah.
something about it. I'm not saying that.
all the context clues, if you will, you know, are pointing to, like Darren said, that there's more to this story. The issue with the PVC piping, with and the father's strict.
Tell the audience what they think the PCB.
Well, there was conversation that the father had a strict regimen that the son was to adhere to academically, because he was homeschooled, but also exercise, and that the PVC piping was used as a disciplinary, utensil. So for punishment, and then I think there was maybe some blood in a young boy's room or on the PVC pipe. Now, what makes this unique is the year that we live in, because if there were PVC piping on anything when I was a kid, it was just like that's what's supposed to be on there. But in today's society, that's noteworthy. So we're seeing this outpour, or this lack of outpour, of what appears to be genuine emotion from the father.
Right.
Then you have the son who, from Chief Craig, he mentioned that he embraced him, and so there appears to be something underlying there, as far as, maybe a story that, whether we'll get to it or not, we'll see, but it just doesn't add up for a common everyday folk like us.
Well, the young man is old enough to talk. So that's the one thing, that there's an advantage, because there were people all out over the city looking for him.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the truth's going to come out within the coming days, I'm pretty sure. From the stepmother, the father, or the kid itself. Who put you there? How are you barricaded? I'm
How
pretty
are you-
sure
how
a
are you
kid
eating?
don't want to be barricaded.
And the little fort he had,
Yeah.
the fort he made, they said, I think one of the quotes was that it would have been almost impossible for him. Now, I remember building forts as kids. You tie the end of the sheet to one doorknob, and you put the other one under the mattress, and you just go underneath
They
that.
say there's food in there, too.
That's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
the
How did he
food
eat for
was-
12 or 11, 12 days.
And I think,
That was
to
that's
top it
what-
off, he had been leaving the water running in the basement. So that's
No.
back to the whole water bill.
No, he
And
hadn't.
They want their money.
No, he hadn't.
So
No, please.
I don't know.
I didn't say it. I didn't say it. The comedian
that's
said
who
it.
found him. The water, the the guy came to
Well,
check the
it'll be
meter,
interesting
fine.
how this plays out because it has become national news. They even talked about it on The View. I mean, it is crazy. And it's not funny.
No.
Why are you laughing?
Well-
I guess you're laughing because the boy's okay.
Yeah, and ultimately that's the.
But they
That's
said
the
he
best
had a
part.
discipline problem. But didn't you see the news interview the young man, the father's mother? Did any of you see that?
No, I didn't see that, but I just heard that he's in the custody of his biological mother now.
Yeah.
and
Well, they
so-
interviewed the father's mother, and she said, well, he just disciplined him. Apparently, it was a tough discipline. They said the boy had had some discipline issues, and I guess the father was going to shape him up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think that was the story that he. You know what's interesting? Very quickly, I ran away when I was a kid once, and this is all in all sincerity. And I ran away. It was only for some hours, but like you said, by the time I got home, the police was there. My mom was frantic, and the reason why I ran away is because my sister she came and found me and said, "Mama's gonna whoop you." And I got tired of it. I'm done. I got my last whooping, so I picked my dog up and I ran up to the school and I stayed in the playground for about 4 or 5 hours. Eventually, I made my way home that night. But it's so from the perspective of what he did, as far as traumatized by getting tired of getting whoopings, I relate to him. But what I don't relate to is the father's reaction, because I remember when my mom saw me, it was relief, but it was also that look
She
like
was
as soon as the
anger.
police
Anger.
As soon
leave,
as it leaves.
as soon as they leave,
I'm
you're gonna get
killing you.
we're gonna go get some PVC pipe out the basement, and we're gonna see about that. So
Connected PVC
a
pipe.
lost dog will always find his way home.
yeah,
That's
Yeah.
true. I made the mistake of running away in February. It was so cold, I had to come back.
you ran away
In February, that was bad. That was bad. I
to the
said,
driveway. And
I
came.
must say,
Right
I
to
must
the
say,
garage,
if this
to the
kid
garage.
was like you and he was, if this kid was scared of, being disciplined the way he was with
Yeah.
the PVC piping and things like that, it's a possibility the kid did barricade himself in the basement. He knew, they had a little tunnel area where
Yeah.
he could do that, and it could be the fact that maybe the FBI and the police department was that incompetent they couldn't
But the
find him.
dogs,
Even with the cadaver dogs, they actually sniff for clothing and
Yeah.
your personal scent. But it's a far stretch.
yes, highly
regardless.
unlikely.
I think
So
it's-
it's something
I-
else,
I think we're
behind
gonna
that.
find more in the next couple of days that's coming out, because if she's sitting in jail, that's one of the easiest ways to start talking. Being someplace you don't
What
know.
could potentially happen to the stepmom and father? What legally could be brought against them if they were found to be misleading everyone, and what would happen from a legal perspective, Rob?
I mean, point blank, they can just be arrested, especially if filed false charges. You had all of the FBI,
All the resources.
Yeah,
So they
all
can
those
bill them
resources
for?
out
Can they
there.
bill them for that,
Not
or
sure
how's that
about
work?
billing yet.
Okay.
I don't think we've
Okay.
come to that. but
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
I was just thinking what eventually possibly could happen if this is found out to be a hoax of sorts or anything like that.
Abuse charges.
That's what I was about to say. Then they'll have to look into what caused all this. And if
Okay.
if this young man, this little boy, decided that he wasn't going to take it anymore
Yeah.
and had to get out, that's what they're going to look at.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand this, the news report saying that his mother said that he was a discipline issue, so she turned over custody to the father.
Yeah.
I don't know. She put him in a worse situation. That's what has to be investigated. That's where.
And
Well-
obstruction charges too.
And it
Right, if
seems
they
a
knew he
little.
was
It
down
seems a
there.
little bit odd too, because if both parents were as actively, I mean, you don't see this as much where both parents are actively involved. I know my situation. I grew up without my dad, and so it was. By the time my mom got to the kids, she didn't have the patience to be diplomatic.
know.
It was
I
like, I'm
know.
gonna put this PVC on you, and you're gonna go to bed.
I'm tired of you and the PVC. Let's move on. We kind of got things a little switched here.
Started working you
The
too.
former, I'm just going to go on with the pages. The former EAA chief exits with $74,000 severance deal. That was crazy. He was getting paid $325,000 per year. He left. That was his job payment, and then they claimed the $74,000. was for unused time and 2 weeks' pay. Golly.
It's
I
almost
must say that I didn't know he was getting paid $325,000
From
a
where?
year.
about $800-900 a day,
For what's
every
it?
day.
He gets
What is
paid
it,
more than the president.
What is it,
Where
like 4
is-
schools?
Right.
I mean, that's
Where is that
crazy
money
right there.
coming from?
That is crazy. I've never heard that.
And he
We're
was
broke.
incompetent, and they knew he was incompetent because that where he was before said he was incompetent. He left it in a disaster, but they brought him to. I think this EAA was such a conspiracy anyway.
It's unbelievable when you look at the plight that the everyday school teacher has to fight just to have a safe working environment. You know, a couple of weeks ago, we saw a teacher that was fired, you know, for pretty much trying to protect her students in that room and, you know, to bring some order. Now, granted, we're not condoning any behavior one way or the other, but you can see the difference in approach from actually the backbone, which are our teachers, and then this gentleman, John Covington, who I think we all agree has done a terrible, horrible job, failed. We'll give him an F. Can we give him an F minus?
Well, there was an old thing in education. They say sometimes incompetence rises to the top, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, the EAA is such a disaster, and they want to spread. And as I said, it seems like they're building a permanent
Now look at
underclass.
this. I mean, he's walking away with probably double the average salary of an incoming teacher,
Not only that,
and he
if-
did nothing.
If you look at his like fringes, there was credit cards that had more than or about $250,000, $240,000 in 2 years, $10,000 for gas, $178,000 for travel. So I mean, where are you going?
I don't know.
Where are you? Are you driving? What did you say? 4 schools? Where are you driving?
I
It's
must
more
say
than
he has
4.
15 schools.
Yeah, I know.
And for him to be here for 3 years, getting $325,000 a year, that's close to $1 million over the 3-year time.
The person who hired him needs to be fired,
But
and
that's
that's
why-
Snyder.
But that's why Detroiters are so skeptical
That's-
when you bring someone in here, and whether it's this gentleman or Kevin Orr, and
Or
they come-
Connie Calloway a few years ago
Yeah.
with Detroit Public Schools.
you bring them in, and they live high on the hog, eat nothing but the choice parts of the best meat and steaks and things
Yeah.
like that, and leave Detroit just as bad, if not worse, and then they go back to wherever they came.
Well, they have enough nest egg. They made their nest egg.
Detroit's being hosed.
Hosed big time.
No pun
you know.
intended with the
Who's-
water
who's-
department.
Who's paying for the EAs?
Who is that's the first question I asked.
Well,
Where
part
does
of
this
it
money come
is
from?
the state, and part of it they're taking money out of Detroit Public Schools, who just made an announcement that with their high schools, they're going to have to increase their class per pupil
Oh, wow.
thing to 43 students in a class. That's in high school.
Wow.
Anarchy. If I were the parents, I'd be up there. I
Can't
mean,
teach in that.
You can't teach it for the
they said people, but
That's
things,
disastrous. You can't do
people are running over people. I would not send my kid to
But you break the spirit of
Fourth
the teachers.
Friday count.
You're really breaking the spirit of the individuals who care the most, because they're struggling to carry this load that's on their shoulders, and someone walks by and say, well, carry this too. I'm gonna add a little bit more to you.
Yeah, and you don't have enough supplies, but
Yeah, so I mean, wow. It's
Yeah, I think some
unbelievable.
type of suit is going to come out of between these EAA schools and the emergency manager over the DPS.
He's
Well,
gonna get to
Both
keep
of
that
them are
money. He's gonna keep that
disastrous
money.
programs right now, and it was better off under the tutelage of the Detroit Public Schools and the mayor. This right here, this
well, the mayor
incompetence on
never
this
had
side,
anything to do with this school.
this incompetence on this side and the
ridiculous.
incompetence with the emergency management, RAN, DPS schools, something's going to have to happen.
And
This is
he
not-
quit.
Yeah.
He wasn't
walked
fired.
away and got-
Well,
Like, wait,
he said,
walked away
yeah,
and got
he
fired.
said he quit.
but my
No, he was fired.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he was
I
fired.
think so.
Yeah.
He was probably asked
But they
to leave
let him
before
say
they
he
came to the-
quit.
Yeah.
Well, with what he
fired
was
because
walking
they,
out
they
with-
have a new EAA head now, and he just what was it? What was
She
it?
just.
Was he just resigned.
Last
no way
week.
you're gonna get another
That quick.
Well,
head.
that was his vice person or second in command. Let's go on. The city council cleared the way for M1 rail construction. You know, last week they said they were in trouble. Now they have the money. Is that it?
I don't know. I'm just happy that it appears that some progress is getting made, and finally.
But it's just going from downtown to the boulevard.
It's a
I got
start.
issues
It's-
with
it's-
that.
it's a start.
I live in Midtown.
It's a start.
It's a start.
I think that definitely it's a start to something. You're really spurring more growth. It's a line that goes stretch 3.3 miles. You have businesses on every block.
And it's
in
going to
between.
increase so dramatically.
And people
man.
looking at the growth of Detroit. People from the outside, I'm like, man, they're finally getting the rail
And the
system now,
change,
a
the
metro
change,
type system.
yeah.
Yeah, they see this
They
type of
shoulda
growth.
had it.
They see buildings coming
Years
up. They
and
see
years ago.
people,
Exactly.
being invigorated to live downtown, move in
Midtown.
Detroit, and the whole. Yeah, this is definitely going to spur the economy and spur people to
Move
come.
into
one of the
sections of Detroit.
Well, one of the
It's
things
Detroit
that
nonetheless.
hurt Detroit for years is the lack of
A mass
a
transit.
mass transit system, especially a commuter rail or a light rail or even a subway system.
Yeah.
I mean, we had the infrastructure for it back then, and that moves people. Just like you said, it moves people from outside the city to inside the city. It moves people from inside the city to outside the city, and all of the merchants and entrepreneurs and businesses along the way.
Okay, now, don't you all say that I didn't tell you, but I know someone's already thought about this. What I would do, I'd buy some vacant lots near the boulevard, and people,
There you go.
commuters coming in, they could park there because they don't want the rates downtown and get on the rail. I would do that.
Well, until they transfer those same rates to that area, and eventually it's going to happen.
But
also,
that's
what's
a
eventually
long
going to
time.
happen is they're going to stretch that
Just stretch it all
that,
the way
that
to-
Tame out.
boulevard stop all the way
out.
down to Royal Oak
Right.
and up to Pontiac one of these days. But that's the goal. You have to show that there's a need and a want for the suburbanites to come to Detroit via a rail system when it comes too much traffic.
No, that's
This
what I
area.
was just about to mention. When I lived in Detroit, lived in D.C., I used to catch.
Well, you're in the suburbs now, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I can't wait till that commuter rail comes out there because it
Okay.
might move some water. But what we used to do what I used to do in D.C. would be I would drive to a mile to the train station. The parking was still the same amount. It was nominal, a little couple dollars less. Jump on the train, and this is in the back in the days of Walkman. I'd listen to my music for 20 minutes. I can just I
Record
can
player?
listen to my music. Walkman, you see that?
Yeah, 8-track.
Yeah, they try.
You are laughing. I
You see
lived
this?
that.
You see this?
I think
I lived
Ashford
that.
and Simpson,
we
Solid
had-
as a Rock was your favorite. Okay.
I'm familiar with what you're talking about because I used to catch the rail. I used to go and park in the parking decks on the metro system and catch it to the airport. Hey, I'm fine. And then I come back and I'm paying the same rate as I did just the day I left. And, they charge that one day only.
Right.
So it doesn't matter how long you stayed there.
But it's also the ride. It's just the
That you
fun
could chill out.
time
Yeah,
Get away
before
from
before
work.
and after work.
Okay, let's move it along. There was an article by Nolan Finley about Belle Isle rowdy shift downtown. In other words, he was saying because there was a few issues at the Riverwalk from some young people that they would have been out in Belle Isle. I mean, they've been fighting downtown for.
Did you?
Not just that, he was just so far off.
Yeah.
His whole article. And it seems as though that it was nothing but rowdiness in Belle Isle. The way he wrote this is like all the thugs in Belle Isle, no families out there.
Go out there.
And that's the part those are the folks they ran off Belle Isle and they're coming downtown. Then he mentions this concert that had nothing to do with the Riverwalk River Days. And he tried to tie the two together, and it's crazy. He's not. He's just so far off. It's just unbelievable.
You know, I think that with him being so far off, we can agree on that. But I do think that there needs to be close attention paid because, for any of us who have conversation with just our friends and family and people we grew up with, there is a shift in traffic away from Belle Isle in a certain demographic. And so you're going to have an increase in just activity in general at other parks, Rouge Park, just the different parks in general. And so I think that it would be strategic, it would be intelligent to have a show of force at those right away, because you got to greet it right away and establish that, hey, you're not going to come here and do this either, right? Because we don't want it to be a step down when you're talking about from state to Detroit. And that really where the tone of the conversation is, oh, well, you can't do it there, but if you come to the Detroit parks, you can do it. And that's really not what we want. We want a standard of excellence regardless of who's running, managing, or whatever. And so I think that looking forward, that's what we need to look at. How can we establish the same level of, tranquility, peacefulness, or whatever you want to call it, in the surrounding parks in the city, as some people believe is starting to show itself in Belle Isle.
Right, and let's also talk about what on the Riverwalk, what happened during this past weekend, which I think is what he's trying to tie all this in
that's what I'm
together,
talking about.
which is, there's a group of kids being kids, being
Throwing
violent,
the
but they were being kids. They were
firecrackers
Well,
and
they were
stuff?
fighting and all that. And,
Yeah.
It scares
and
people.
It does, and it makes people not come into downtown. I don't want to do this because the word is out. They're going to be doing this stupid knockout game, and somebody's going to get shot. Some kid's going to get shot doing that because they're a CPL, they're concealed pistol licenses, carrying people, and they're going to see some kid walk up to them about the strike, and then they're gonna
Very excellent point.
So then the next night they said it's only about 60% of people, 65% of the people who normally would come out to the fireworks, they stayed away. I was watching the news at one point, and there was a reporter with not anyone around him. He was at Hart Plaza in an open space in Hart Plaza because people were either the threat of rain, of course, would keep you away, but there was a threat of some type of violent act. This, I disagree with this article tying all those things together, but these things are real, and I think by the police, the presence that they had, because one of the persons down there said
presence was crazy.
that's what they said. They said the presence that they had. One person got on the news, or one person that they spoke with said, "Man, if you're about to get arrested, why you want to come down here?" That's a good point.
They were on literally every corner.
And when I was leaving work, that's exactly what I saw.
I've never seen a police force in that voluminous downtown Detroit.
And maybe this year has to be a shifting year, and now we can get the Detroit residents back in. We can get people from out of town back in. We can get we can get these the vendors downtown.
I've got an issue with it though, and it's not a primary issue, but it's an auxiliary issue, because what it gives the appearance that visitors are more important safety-wise than residents, and because this show of force, this show of presence, will be at an event where we expect people to come in the city, but if you have a park there where residents frequent daily, that force is all but
Chris, I was thinking the same thing.
It gives the impression. Gives the impression that the people that come into the city, we're gonna make sure you all right and protect you or that area.
This is what
but
I
not the
noticed.
folks-
Let me say this because
where's
we
the
got to
presence in
move
the rest of the
along.
parks?
Hold on, you're all going to argue, but I want to say this. The incident happened Saturday evening. It was noted by me and others that Saturday night's news did not carry it and Saturday morning's news did not carry
absolutely.
it because they had carried the Riverwalk festivities and publicized that so much. It seemed like somebody told them to hold on that so that you'd still get the people coming from out of town. It was very blatant. Usually they jump on top of that and they'd have it on the news.
The media is actually changing because what you see is they're working hand in hand with the city where they used to just attack. Someone could drop a feather and they say people are pouring feathers
wait a minute.
down.
I saw the coverage.
I'm telling you,
Well,
we
not
know
on
Want them
Saturday.
to cover the
I
bad
don't know
stuff?
what I'm
We want them to show a
No.
bad image of Detroit.
No,
No,
but
we're not
but they
saying that.
did end up showing it Sunday evening, Sunday night.
I think
But
my
after
It
it
was
was
definitely in
over.
the newspapers. I saw that. I'm not sure.
It
if
was-
that
I-
on-
how many
No,
people
no,
read the
that's
newspaper
I am
versus watch the
absolutely
news?
sure.
I saw it on
It-
the news.
No,
I think the
it was
plain
on the
point-
news later
I think
Sunday.
the plain point should be that the Riverfront Conservancy, whenever they have the River Days, they need to increase security, and I think it's another action of the DPD. They need to come in a little bit more, definitely on the weekends, to show their presence. If their presence was shown, it wouldn't have been the violence that it was.
Right. And I don't think it's because because it's a suburbanites or people from outside the city coming in.
In part, it is.
I think it's we're expecting 4 to 5 times more people down here. So let's bring the presence so that we can make sure everybody.
We got
agree.
to move along. We guys, we have to.
But it's business.
We have to.
Regardless,
Yeah.
it's business.
But
you
you-
bring
Okay.
tourists here and people coming down to downtown Detroit, you have to protect the business, period.
All right.
And the people that's coming
And
down.
you want good customer service is
good water.
people in Detroit telling people it's good to come down here, it's safe. Okay, Michigan's Breastfeeding Anti-Discrimination Act was signed by Governor Snyder. In other words, you can nurse your child anywhere you want.
I agree.
All right, so next.
I think you
No,
need to
no.
cover up.
Well, wait a minute. Does that
We don't.
does that say that the actual I don't know if the word
You
is
can legalize it.
teat can be out or
Breast.
breast can be out? Okay.
Yeah.
It was a topic I didn't want to cover, but
I put it down anyway.
my hands was off of that one.
Boom, boom.
Okay.
What? Your
You
hands
know,
are-
we're
your
seeing another
hands-
side of Governor Snyder. Maybe maybe we need to look into his character a little bit if he wants to walk through Michigan and
No,
just see
he's doing this to win women over. Come on, there's something
making a lot of
behind
men
everything.
happy in the meantime.
Okay,
So-
trick. And you mentioned it, how Rick Ross was supposed to come down to Shane Park, perform at Shane Park last Saturday night, but there was a group who who made sure that it was padlocked. He couldn't get in. Trick was saying that if he has appointed himself representative of the natives.
community liaison, if I will.
Oh,
This
and
is
says
straight
it's no-fly zone policy.
It's straight extortion.
It's
That's exactly what it is.
it
Straight
is.
up extortion.
It is.
He's trying to claim he's for the people. Either if you're an outside artist, you don't put any money in Detroit in Detroiters' pockets, i.e., any promoters here, or if your record label don't have any Detroiters on it, then you're not welcome here. You can't fly here and you can't do business here.
I think
This-
that's ridiculous.
This guy,
so-
he blocked Rick Ross's entourage to come in here to
The
perform
bigger
for
story,
the people.
the bigger story is the DPD let it happen. They sat there
that was
and they
crazy
look like
too.
some chumps. They
Yeah,
look like
it was-
little
it
kids.
was
Like,
2 or 3
well, Trick,
officers
do we
and
let
about
them? Trick,
100 other
do we
guys
let them in?
blocking- Yeah. it was
You're the
crazy.
police.
Yeah, it was
You're the
crazy.
police. They're sitting there like, well, Trick said you can't come in, Ross. So I don't know. I mean, I don't understand. I do not understand.
Rick Ross got
Craig?
paid $100,000.
Where's
And
Chief
the people
Craig?
and the
Right-
people that
right
paid
there.
for those tickets didn't see a show. That
And
they
he
went
said, hey, I got paid anyway.
Right.
You know, and I wasn't there. I sent the entourage before I got there, and they wouldn't let my entourage in, so I'm not going to show up. He was like, I was at Greektown Casino
Right.
the whole
spending the
time.
money.
And he
that
said,
just
mad
got
props
paid.
to Greektown,
Yeah.
because I saw his interview
Mad
yesterday.
props. Shout out Greektown.
Elika.
But the people lost. Summer Jam
Exactly,
lost.
exactly.
The radio station lost. That was
Detroit
$100,000
lost.
to
We
the
took
Detroit.
another black eye of basically whether we look at it as entertainment, it's business. It's business. And so if a person is looking on the outside, looking in, thinking about doing that type of business in the city, they might take a second look now and say,
Right.
well, do I need to do that?
Well, what is the quality of the rap that he says that people aren't getting deals for? Maybe the quality or the so-called marketing of these people hasn't been that good.
I don't know. I would have expected. I don't know. I saw the video he made
I know.
with what was it called? No Fly Zone or
No
something
Fly
like that?
Zone.
And he made this in what, May or something like that.
It was when
So people was
Searchlight
aware
was.
you're gonna face these issues.
Eh,
prior to.
I think too, what you have is a little bit of fear. Anytime things resort to violence, you're dealing with an issue of fear, right? So if you think historically, so if you
Yeah,
have a person,
that's what
if you have a
scares me.
person who may feel that their window of opportunity is closing, they may resort to some extreme measures, such as this, possibly to gain some attention themselves. I don't know. I agree with what you said. It sounds like pure extortion, but I think the larger issue is the DPD came out looking very, very weak.
That they can't protect our artists. We have about a minute and a half.
Guys, say he's a mayor of Detroit.
Oh, please.
Yeah,
Please.
I've
Talk
never
to
heard.
me
And
before
I
you-
know-
Never heard of this.
You got
And
to
I
me
know
before you
Trick
get-
Trick.
I've
I
never
know
heard of
Trick
this.
Trick.
He's
I
the
did
bo-
not call. I did not contact because I thought it was just not a good thing to do. Okay, Beverly Hills Cop, Eddie Murphy's coming back. What more is there to say?
Hey,
There's a-
350 jobs for
Michigan
Detroit
workers.
Michiganders.
And
I
some
would
Listen,
be
let's
here
stop
for
calling
that
him
money.
Eddie Murphy. Axel Foley
here.
will be back in
I
Detroit.
know.
Axel
Exactly.
Foley with his Mumford jacket. And
I know. Oh, if he
the
wears
skinny
that,
jeans are back, so he can wear those again too.
Gil
So,
Hill coming back for it too?
oh
I
man,
know.
where is Gil here? I don't know
Okay,
where
Foley.
he is.
What about who'd you like in the NBA draft?
Well, that's I think Wiggins. I think Wiggins. You know,
Who did we get?
I haven't studied that yet.
I think Mehmet or Kerr or something. I don't know.
Oh,
Somebody. Mehmet or Kerr.
I don't know. Well, it's almost that time. It's about that time, guys. I mean,
Darko
here we had.
Milicic.
Oh no, not Darko again.
You're
Maybe
next, Joe
someone,
Dumars.
someone,
LeBron
dar-
James.
We got
someone.
LeBron. That's what we got.
Darko Milicic.
Okay, we gotta go. Everybody, join us again next week for Table Talk with Brenda Perryman, and we'll see you then.